Hello, everyone, and welcome to Until We Arise. My name is Rachel, and I'm the founder and CEO of Until We Arise. Our mission is to bridge divided people to loving community, empowering resources, and a compassionate Christ.
And I am Vero. I am our co-founder and CFO, and our vision is to build a global, thriving community of women who combat injustice and oppression with love and compassion.
And today,
Hi.
we are in Tijuana.
We're in the same room.
We're in the same room, and this is exciting.
Yes.
How are you guys doing? Hopefully, this time we are fully live, so we are here. We can hear your questions, we can see your questions, and we'd love to know where you're listening from, what's going on, because we're in Mexico,
Yes.
which is exciting, but we want to know wherever you are. So go ahead and go into the chat. Let us know you're here, and we're also available for live questions. So we're discussing today. We're going to have a point of reflection.
Yes.
We are going to check in on some of the things that we've learned and just going to get a heart-to-heart on the things we've learned about love throughout this. It's been, I think I started the love series in October or something.
Yeah, it was last year. It was
Yeah,
towards the end of last year.
So we're not done with Love Is. Love will continue. But as we do that, we're kind of want to just take a pause and gather our thoughts on all of the gather our thoughts on all of. My mom is here helping with tech. Say hi, Mom.
Hey.
So she's there. I was noticing the beautiful bird outside because here in the bird feeder, the here in Mexico there are so many birds. The nature is beautiful, and it's just very different. But yeah. So we're continuing our Love Is series, but we're taking a pause to reflect. To get everywhere, to reflect on the good things that we've learned. Just taking a moment to check in with each other and kind of feature some of the highlighted responses that we gathered, because I think it was so great. I feel like I've learned so much, not just from the studies that we've done, but also our amazing guests.
Yes.
So some of the ones that we've been through, if you don't follow our YouTube channel or subscribe, we have we started with Love Is. Where did we start? The first one that I did is Love Is Perfected in Us.
Okay, yeah.
Then we went to Love Is Leaving Something Better Than You Found It.
Oh, yeah.
Love Is Eternal is another interview we had with Allie. Love Is...
Wasn't there one that was not self-seeking?
Love Is Not Self-Seeking, yes. And some of those we're going to revisit so you have an opportunity to check in and see them.
Yes.
Let's
see. Love Is...
Then we got Love Is Honest, you and I, when we started the new year, and this is where we jumped in. So Love Is Honest.
Yes, and then
leaving things better than you found it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the interview with Chris.
Love Is Radical.
That's what it was. I wanted to say hard because I know we had a conversation about hard things and that, doing hard things.
Yeah.
And then what was the next?
Love Is Intimate.
Oh, yeah.
Love Is Loving First.
Yes. Love Is...
Do you guys remember any of them that are your favorite?
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Put it in the
Which
chat.
Your favorite?
Mom's managing the chat over there. So let us know, Adeline, if anything jumps in that we need to comment on. Do we have any guests here yet?
We do, actually. Let's see here. There's Gisela.
Hello.
Hola, Giselle.
And Marilyn was here.
Hi, Marilyn.
And there was one other person.
And so we have Mexico and Compton in the house.
Whoop, whoop. Tijuana and Compton.
Yes. Okay, so we have we also had Love Is Being Seen.
Yeah,
that was with Aquila.
That was.
Then we have Love Is Belonging with Kat.
That's the one I was thinking. Love Is Belonging.
And then what else have we got?
Intimate. There's another
Love
one.
Is Loving First.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had some great ones, but we're just getting started. There's a lot more that we have. We have scheduled new guests that I'm looking forward to introducing you to. I think, can you think of any of them that really stood out to you? Like any that really rocked you and changed you?
I think one that, I don't know if it was like the couple weeks I was having at that moment, but definitely Love Is Radical is one that really impacted me.
That's with Chris.
Yeah, that's with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to just remembering that like love does lead us to do these radical things. And I think it just resonated so much with me that like it's not always easy. You know, the things God calls us to do is not always easy. And so that definitely just moved me. I think I even told her afterwards, I'm like, if nobody else was moved by that, it was
that
for me
was
for
just
sure.
for me. Yeah, and I particularly love Chris's interview as well, because I think what happened was like she brought in insight. I think the part that got me the most was when she was talking about her struggle with cancer. And it hit me hard because we fight so hard to run from death.
Yeah.
And when she said in one of her responses is that, because we were talking about how we were agreeing to pray for healing for her. And then she said, and so I said, you know, something about death. And I said, oh, I rebuke death because we want healing. And she just flipped it on me. And she was like, well, life is a death sentence. And I wish I could have the clip, but if you haven't, go back and see it, because she talks about this conversation with her son and how the time with her son, like she teaches him like how what we're called to live, to die. And it goes back, it's so biblical, to live as Christ and to die as gain, you know? And I'm like it's hard because it's not how we function. We don't function on that level of understanding. We function to say, hey, like I just want to live as long as I can because this is where it all ends. And it's so hard to capture another mindset, to believe, oh, there's something more. There's something greater, you know? So that's pretty powerful to me. I think that really stuck with me because I felt somewhat like checked in that moment, how I want to rebuke death constantly. Because of course we want to rebuke death. But not to the point where we forget that death is a part of the plan. And it's not where it ends.
And we're not guaranteed an eternal life here on earth. And I think even as you're talking about that, I think even how the word says, like, once we come to know God, once we come to know Christ, we're called to die to ourselves. So even on earth, death is part of our life, right? Like it's this like die to yourself, die to the things that you want. So in a sense, we as Christians embrace death because we are called, just even here on earth, to die to the things that we know, to die to the things that we want. And then it says, if you are willing to lose your life, you will find it, right? Is what the word says. So there's that. And then, like you said, Paul, who says to die is gain, to live is Christ, but to die is gain. And in our life group, we were talking about that. Like, that's such a weird thing to say. Someone comes and tells you that just out of the blue, and you think, what is this person
Makes Christians are crazy.
We are crazy. We're a crazy bunch, for sure. But, you know, and so I think we talked about the relationship Paul must have had for that. And so I think even like the relationship and the love that compels you to live in that way, to say, to die is gain for me. That is radical for sure.
And he's like, he talks to, I forget in what letter he talks about. He's like, I'm here for you because for me, it'd be better to just be with Jesus. But I'm here for you right now, you know? And I think that's powerful. I don't know. Did anybody see that chat? You see that story? Please comment in the chat if anybody was able to experience that with us, because it was quite powerful, I think. And for me, I think it's really hard to capture that because we look at life in such a finite way. And it also makes it hard to like die to ourselves while we're here, like you just described. Like what does that look like for us, you know? And so like, in order to really love like Jesus loves, we have to kind of die like he was willing to die. And it doesn't mean go find a cross, you know, because we're not called to that per se, but he calls us to each bear our own cross. And I think that part of that is like, I'm so disciplined. I mean, so encouraged by your discipline. And I know that has been a huge journey. Like, I mean, if you notice, my friend has gotten so slim and it's not just married life, but it is just like dying to your flesh. Like you've been very strict on the sugar fast, and I know it's not for everybody to know, but I'm sharing it anyway. But I'm just like, I look and I know how that was a huge struggle for you in the past, you know, and just knowing how that requires like a death to the things that you want. And I know because I also just completed a year-long fast as well, And I'm like, girl, I just want a cup of coffee, you know? And it was like emotional for me. So I'm not just talking about you, I'm gonna put myself out there too, you know? I was so emotionally driven by coffee and like I just wanted it, you know? And so for me, and I felt like there was nothing wrong with it, like sugar, right? It's like, it's normal, it's a part of our lives. But when God is saying, die to yourself, it's like saying no to something that seems harmless, that's legal, that's all good.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not even in biblical. You can't have this, or you can't have, like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just powerful, I think, to like be led by the Lord to die to the things that we like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to that love, because it's like any relationship, right? Like me and my husband. So there are things that I could really enjoy doing, but if it's going to bring a wedge between him and I, then I love him enough to say, I love you more than this thing that I enjoyed.
Wow.
Right. So in the general sense, that's what marriage is about, right? You are joined to this person and you're like, for me, right? Like as a woman, no other guy is even like, that's it. Yeah. You're the one, and I'm putting behind that the pursuit of any other guy, because I am choosing you. Yeah. You know, and so that's like the main general idea of marriage, and then it happens continually in marriage as you're finding your groove with your spouse, and finding your rhythm and what works for you guys. Yeah. And so it's the same thing, even more so with God,
because like, it's the same. It's modeled, like that's the beauty of marriage. It's like that's why He calls us His bride. It's a covenant. Yeah. And like there's power in the covenant. And if people understood what that really meant, it would change how we function. Yeah. But yes, you were saying.
Yeah. Like, and so it's just like it comes from the love that you have for this person. For the love that you have for this person and the commitment that you make in that love. And so you say, I am committed to you. I am choosing you, not just today, not just on this beautiful day when we get married, but I'm choosing you every day and all of these things. And so, you know, there's a balance. Obviously, you got to make sure it's biblical. You got to make sure it's honoring the Lord. But in that, you know, you honor the Lord through honoring your spouse as well. And so same thing as this, like, yeah, it's hard. Do I like ice cream? Yes. You know, and all that stuff. But it's trusting that what God has for me is better. And so if He is leading me to say, hey, are you willing to give this up for me because you love me? Because I love you. And I know that I have something better for you, in you releasing that. Do you trust me enough? Do you love me enough to do this? Yeah. And good. So me saying, yes, God, I love you. And I didn't just choose you when I was 16 and gave my life to you. I mean, I gave my life to the Lord sooner, but that was kind of one of those moments. Or in 2017 when we started this, I'm like His word says, you pick up your cross daily. Yeah. It's every single day. And so every day in that, for me, that's part of my cross, is I'm releasing this want and this even right to have sugar in my life, and say, no, this is something God showed me wasn't good for me. This is something He's asked me to let go of in this season. And so I got to be okay with that. And so every day I'm saying, no, I don't want that, you know. And
I think, it's like every day. And I think when I walk with Jesus, it's hard because I think about just my desire for a latte, because it was something that the Lord was saying, I want you to manage your emotions a little better. I want you to not trust in this to bring you up when things are down. And sometimes busy eating, or, you know, the little things that we do just out of like having the cup of coffee because I need that pick me up. And He's like, do you trust that coffee more than you trust me? I know it sounds so petty, but in the process of the day to day, when you wake up and you're like, I need some caffeine. Like it's a daily thing, you know. And then when you tell people, oh no, I'm not having coffee or whatever, they're like, what?
Yeah, even with sugar.
Yeah, they're like, what? And it's like, I love how you said it, because I don't want anything more than I want God. If it's gonna cause a division between me and my Maker, after knowing what He's carried me through, like for Paul, then I don't want it. Let me finish that thought. If it caused any division, I don't want it. But when I think about Paul, he had an encounter. He was so passionate about the things that he did before. He was like a Christian killer, right? Right. Yeah. Saul. And when he had that encounter with God, that threw him on his butt, basically.
Mhm.
He was blinded for days, and then like faced his worst fears of having to encounter with this encounter with these Christians
Mhm.
that he once killed, and now in a vulnerable space of not being able to see. This is in the book of Acts. Like,
Yeah.
he's now put in a place where it's like, oh my gosh. And he has an encounter with Jesus who speaks to him,
Mhm.
comes
Yeah.
back, he's already back from the dead, comes down from heaven and says, Paul, like, why are you persecuting, or Saul, why are you persecuting me? And your name is now going to be Paul. And he has this encounter with him, and it changes him. And so what's scary, I think something we talked about earlier at lunch was like the fear that sometimes settles in when we have become familiar with the Spirit of God.
Mm.
And we forget the power of those encounters.
Yeah.
So it becomes, our time with the Lord becomes like a fallen apart marriage that was only the highlight of that relationship was the wedding.
Right.
The highlight of that relationship with God was the supernatural encounter when you were slain in the Spirit and you were crying and you got your spiritual language. And it started there and it ended there.
Yeah.
You were crying at the altar, at the camp, at the conference. And you're like, ah! And you're like, I remember when God touched me. And he's like, I want that every day.
Right.
Like, this is like a marriage. This should be celebration. It should get sweeter daily. But we leave it in there because we forget that encounter. We forget the power of that encounter. I want to kind of transition just a bit because there's something to the everyday.
Yeah.
And I think one of the guests that really stuck out to me the most, not the only one, but that stuck out to me the most because of lifestyle, where it carried over from more than just a one-time event of excitement, but somebody who carried through hard times for both of us, but especially I know it was first for you and now for me too, is because it's how she lives. And that's why she doesn't have a huge platform. She's not even on Instagram.
Right. She's not on any social media, actually.
Yeah. She's on WhatsApp.
Well, that's like a messaging thing.
Yeah, I know. But she like posts her statuses. Yeah. I'm like, get out of here. It's true. Evelyn, you know, and Evelyn's heart for ministry, her heart for the Lord, and her love for people. It's not about status. It's not about if it's going to be seen. It's just so present. And I think we talked about this like just the other day, the urgency when we see her in need because we love her. And I know you've been friends with her longer, and I've known her as long as you probably kind of almost as a little bit. Yeah. But I didn't have this closeness until recently. Yeah. And I'm just like, she has this gift of putting herself to the side for someone else. Yeah. And how hard it is to be like, no, I'm here for you now. Yeah. And loving on her. We have to be extra intentional, but that's just reflective of her heart for God and heart for people. And so I think I really loved being able to interview her and to share that. How was that for you?
I mean, like you said, I've known her for quite some time, and her and I are really close, and it kind of just developed into that. It didn't just, she pressed in, and I was willing to also press in. But I was so encouraged with her interview because of, like you said, the way that she is, who she is, and her willingness to press in even when it's not easy. Yeah. Her, she's one of those few people who, I think even you mentioned it, that she questioned you on some of the things. Like,
girl,
I'm the one who
was
does
like,
that.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm the one who questions, like, did you hear that from the Lord? Yeah. And I'm like, mind your business. That's what I feel today. Like, and it made me think. I was like, like we just got in an argument. Fake argument. Yeah. When like she asked me a question about some decision I was making. She's like, oh, friend, did the Lord show you that? And I was like, yeah, mind your business. Weeks later, I'm like, Lord, but did you say that though? And then I call her. I'm like, that's not what God said. Why'd you ask me that question? And I was like so mad. It was funny. But then I called her to tell her, and so she cracked up the whole time.
I'm sure she's like, no, she wouldn't say I knew it, but yeah. And so that's how she is, And I think it reflects one of her answers, or one of the things she talked about, love and being able to stick through the conflict. That real love is like sticking through the conflict. It's not just like, that's where, because we talked about friendship, right? And so that friendship that is not just on the surface level, but can go deep and can face conflict and still comes out of it and whole. you know, and I don't remember if it was her, but she talked about, maybe it wasn't her, maybe I'm confusing it with Akila, but she said like love is present or something along those lines. Like,
No, that was us. That was just us
oh,
too.
okay. But
Yeah.
but I think
it's the same concept.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so being able to push through the hard things, you know,
Mhm.
and that's something that I'm even like learning. I mean, I've known in our friendship, in her friendship, like we've had moments where it's like, I don't want to talk to you right now. Get out of my face. You know? And we've had that starting this organization, being together every day
Oh,
in each
girl.
other's face. And there are moments where I'm like,
I need a minute.
Let's go seek the Lord separately and we'll come back.
But this is a lot.
But even with her, at times where, like you said, she'll question things, and I'm just like, I just want to do what I want to do. Leave me alone. But it does bring that conviction because it's from the Lord, you know.
Yeah.
But even more so with God, when He's
Yeah.
willing to press in with me, He doesn't leave me in my brokenness. He's not like, today you're too rough. Let me just let you. No,
Yeah.
He presses in, and so like the love that comes in that you know that if you can make it through that conflict, then you'll make it through anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
because like
you're not
what
gonna
happens
run.
on the other side of that
Mhm.
conflict is a true friendship that's so much more rich because you've
Right.
seen the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that unknown, like, can I handle her ugly?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this. We went through it. She forgave me. I forgave her. Like, yeah, like we're in this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like when you and Bao got married and you
Mhm.
started using a southern accent.
Sorry, babe. He went through a phase.
We don't have to go in detail, but the point is, he said, "You bought it." But it was like you make it through those things, you
Mhm.
know. And I think, yeah, like even with our friendship, you know, we made it through some things, and I think the whole idea with Evelyn was so powerful. It was so encouraging to me because sometimes I can feel like I'm too much, right? Like because what she said, what we titled it was "Love is Loving First." Because for her, she talked about her good friend from her childhood who called her best friend first.
Yeah,
and she's like, "I didn't tell you. You could. I said I don't want a best friend." But she planted that love on her, and because of that commitment, she was able to do the same for you. And it's like probably not even a conscious choice, but it's modeling and being able to be people who see what it looks like to love first.
Yeah.
And you know, like I think it's funny because I don't know if our relationship was completely like that, but kinda. Like I think about what we went through when you first moved in.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey friend, I'm having a Bible study," and you just showed up. Like it was your consistency, but I had to ask.
Right.
And it was like, let's go to IKEA or let's go to a coffee shop. And we would just do, but it was like leaning in. And especially when you were going through a really hard time, I was like, I can't leave her alone. Nobody else lives here. I have to live. And you know, it was like, it's hard to be the courageous one to love first. Because you don't know if you're going to be rejected. You don't know if you tell them that thing that you felt like God spoke in your heart, if it's going to be like, ew, who do you think you are? You think you're holy? You think you're holier than me? Ooh, who, like, I don't need your prayers. Because you don't know. Like, I just recently went to pray for someone who looked like they had it all together. And they still might be way more advanced than me in their walk with the Lord, right? But nevertheless, the Lord said, pray with her. Because she was like older woman. Yeah. And she had all the Jesus gear on. So I was like, she's super. But I still was like, you know, I'm going to pray with her. And I didn't say anything like correcting or anything, but I felt like just inappropriate, honestly, in my own flesh to just even say, oh, let me pray for you. I didn't know. She was like, why is she trying to pray for me? I'll pray for you. Yeah. Because people can respond that way. And I think loving first is hard. Yeah. And sometimes loving first is offering prayer or showing up at somebody's house after they've had a loss, leaning into something that's challenging because you don't know how people respond in pain or how people respond in correction or even in love. Because some people are so broken, you showing up and saying, I love you. They're like, extra. You're fake. Yeah. You don't even know me. How are you going to love me? You know, and that it takes a lot to be the person to lean in. But the more we do it, the more we model it for other people. Yeah. And that's what Jesus did for us, you know?
Right.
And Mom, feel free to, since Mom's here, if there's any cool comments that you think, just go ahead and let me know so you can share them. I would love to hear some of the comments if anybody's in there.
No,
Not yet?
Just Marilyn said that Vero looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I said thank you already, and then she was just talking about how yes, it's hard, but we have to,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Yeah, that kind of thing, and just
Well, if there's anything that stands out to you, go ahead and let us know.
And I just want to touch briefly on what you said about like the more we do it, we model it for others.
Right.
You know, and I think even being here, it's a new community. There's been hard, you know, it's been a little hard to adjust just because I've been in a different community for the past 3 years, and I had built friendships and you know, developed connections with people, and it was different because I was working outside of my house. So I would go to a place, I worked with people outside of my household, and now that's not happening. But God has connected us to a community within church, and that was so
quick.
Beautiful. It was very quick. Val and I wanted to just take it slow and tiptoe our way in.
She's already on the stage translating.
Oh yes, and so
which I'm so proud of you on, friend. I know I want you to finish your comment, but like, dude, like how God uses your willingness and your courage, like I honor you so much. Like the enemy has tried to knock you down so many times, and I'm just so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so proud of you, and I'm honored to be partnered with you because when I watch you on that stage, I'm just like, that's my friend. Wait till she runs the whole conference.
Whoa.
Wait till she's preaching. She's gonna be preaching soon.
But yeah, and so I felt like God, we have, right, I think the word says like man is like plants his steps, but God established them or something. I'm totally butchering that. But we thought, you know, we're gonna be wise, we're gonna take our time, we just got married, let's slowly get into this. And I just felt like God was like, boop, there you go, you're in community. Go. and it had, obviously it's people's also willingness, right? Like we've had a couple that were willing to just love us first, you know, and they shared how they didn't invite us the first time into their home. That first week they saw us at church, I was like, we don't want to scare you guys off. but now
all the invites.
But the second week they were like, come to the house, and they have been, and even the people that they've been introducing us to have also been like, hey, welcome and be here. And so that's been so encouraging. And so for us, and then there's been people that God has been putting on my heart to be that person for them, you know, reach out and love on them. And for me, it's a little awkward, partially because I've struggled with rejection in the past. And so getting past that, even if they like, what if they think I'm too much? What if they don't like me? What if they're like, why is this girl trying to be around me so much?
Yeah.
You know?
Even, and it's funny because that's how I feel too. Sometimes, like I told you, like, oh, people might respond well if I show up. I think they're going to be like, oh, why is she here? Like all the insecurities that jump in. Why did you comment? Why is she in my DMs? Why is like I'm thinking, because I'm so insecure. We all face that insecurity. Like, oh, how are they going to respond? Because we walk and we carry these insecurities. Instead of saying, oh, wow, they're about to be so blessed that I'm here. Like, and it sounds conceited, but like walking in that honor and that the Lord comes, because it's not us, it's not our presence, it's the Lord's, you know, when we surrender ourselves.
Yeah. And so I think that.
Oh, Marilyn says she's ready for a women's retreat.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I like it.
And so I think, I'll touching on that is just when those moments come where I feel like God encourages me to lean into people. I think of Evelyn and I think of how she was for me, you know, and because we talked about how she was like, Amiga, and just hugged her way into my life, but even how she encouraged me with my relationship with my mom and her encouraging me to be the first one to be vulnerable, to be the first one to open up, to love, to not be judgmental. And that, I'm not just going to say it was just that and it was all me. It was definitely the Lord, but I believe he used that to bring that and allowed my mom to be open with me and to be vulnerable with me. And that has changed. And so those little things, when I feel God to do that, I'm just like, okay, Lord, I'm going to press in, guard my heart if they say no.
Or when they hurt you, to keep on loving.
Right.
To keep on loving. And that brings me to another conversation, which I thought really stuck to me.
Yes.
Was the entire love is belonging with Kat Burgos.
Yeah. It was so beautiful.
Oh, just thinking about it, because I think that belonging is why I titled the interview that, is because like she said love is something else and she described it differently. But when she talked about love, when she talked about her desire to belong, that's not just a desire to belong because belonging is cool. It's because of so much like rejection and feeling left out and having been hurt and discouraged. And not that she dwells on that, because if you do, you can stay broken. But there was so much growth in her own, like how she walked through that growth and trust in the Lord to love and not hold all the sins or the pain of her mom against her, or like being willing to face her sisters. And like now she lives in Florida. She moved.
I remember she was in the moving process.
And so like leaning into belonging when everything else you've known has felt unsafe. Facing the potential for rejection again. And that can only be something that the Lord encourages you, because it's easy to like say, never mind, I'll never try again.
Right.
And so I thought that like her trusting in God, like I was just blown away by that, because we can say it easily, like, oh look, she stepped out and she went and she made the call she's been waiting for her whole life. But all the complex emotions that go into that, knowing that your mom gave you away and then raised other children, and what it meant to bring her back into the life, and her mom's willingness to love her. And then she even talked about like her mom, you know, asking for forgiveness, but it took Kat loving first. Do you know what I mean? I think I feel like there's like common themes through all this. It's not just love, but how to love.
And I feel like it builds on each other. Like I feel a lot of the times as we do the next episode, it just I feel like a lot of the times I'm pulling from some of those, and it just keeps reinforcing what we're sharing. And I think even as you're talking about Kat, you know, in her being willing to love first, but even I think one of the things that she talked about that for me was very what's the word? I just felt like it resonated, was being willing to accept that as her new normal, you know, walking into the new normal. Because like you said, there's so many times that something can happen before that can make us like, never mind, I've done that and it hurt me. But to say, this is a new thing in my life, and I don't know what it's like, but I'm going to make it like it's my normal. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to walk in it. Like this is what it should have always been. And that's not easy. Hard. Because
new normals are terrifying.
Yeah. And so it's like you have to be willing to not ignore, but not rely on the past experiences. You have to have the confidence to step into that with so many unknowns, because you don't know how it's going to play out. There's the fear that it's going to play out maybe as previous times or just based on what it was before. But it has so much power when you do walk into it. You know, it's it kind of reminded me of, there's a time when Pastor Kimberly from The Rock shared about walking in your calling, and she talked about it is humility to walk in it. And for many of us, stepping into those callings is new. It's something that we're not accustomed to, especially when you have baggage from, you know, previous decisions and things in your life. And to walk in it like it's normal, it takes a lot of courage, but it's where that comes from, you know? And so like you shared, you could see the healing God had done in her heart, for her to be able to say, I know what was in the past. I know that my mom chose to give me up and then chose to raise other children. And she herself hasn't looked for me, but I'm still stepping into this. And I'm going to walk in it like this is a normal relationship, even though I hadn't been her normal. And the beautiful testimony she has now to share that, like you said, her sisters have taken her in. That's so beautiful. Her mom, she's found that healing, and now she's living a life with her. She's moved. And
she's now at 50 years old, being able to know her mom.
Yeah.
And I love it also when she was talking about, like, I could complain about all the years that were missing, that, oh, I could have had her. She wasn't there for this. She wasn't there. But she's like, but why do that when I have now? I have now. And I think a lot of us dwell in that. And I think it's actually very biblical for, like, the Lord talks about, let your yes be no, yes, and your no be no, you know, and just go for it. He talks a lot about us not looking back.
Yeah.
And although there's wisdom in some of our things that we can capture, but there's a like power in moving forward. But I think a lot of us, because of all of the things that we carry, it's really hard. And only God can give us that. And I was driving with my mom, I think, and I was just like, there's something to, I don't know who I was talking to. Like, we don't have to live our lives alone. I was talking to somebody else, but I was thinking, like, I'd be like, when we live our lives without Jesus, like, we are accountable for our own decisions. And it's true, we still are.
Right.
But when I look up with the Lord, and I'm like, it really is like, not you, Lord. You told me to get over here. Kind of like, you told me to quit my job, so you gonna provide. Like, and I'm not saying everybody should quit their job. Pastor Stephen Ferguson is like, I'm not telling you to go start a coffee shop. You know, he always says that. But all of us have that encounter with Jesus or something, you know, and I'm like, Lord, as I have made a decision that I feel like you have led me on, go. Like, now it's you, Lord. Like, so if I'm broken in this, like, which still could happen, I might be hurt by something. I might hit hardship, but at least I know I'm in his will.
Right.
Like, I'm still with him. Like, he's not like, Mija, like, you did this, figure it out. Because a lot of, I remember hitting crossroads. I think I tell people sometimes about when I was like internet dating. And there was a season like 2009 that I remember my friends were helping me get like an account. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I was like, God, I'm scared because I didn't know how to talk to men. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do internet dating. And I felt the peace of the Lord to try that. Because I wasn't out there like sleeping with men or anything.
Right.
I was just meeting them.
Right.
And most of them only went like one date. Because I was like, y'all crazy. I mean, not to be mean, but one guy like was so nervous. He started the entire conversation like he was shivering. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, that's a lot of pressure for me because you're so nervous.
Yeah.
And it just didn't go past that. But there were some that were decent and everything. But then I remember a few years later, I was still frustrated with the Lord. And I was like, God, I still had the nerve to ask him, can I internet date now? I'm just like, you know, I'm gonna go for it. And he's like, no. And I was like,
I'm gonna do it anyways.
I'm gonna do it anyway. Like,
that one girl I thought, like, I'm gonna see for myself.
And it's hard because like the Lord is always gonna meet us, and he's merciful, right? He's loving.
Yeah.
But when you know, it's kind of like, nah, Rachel, like this mess you made. Figure it out. You want to go and be a big girl by yourself and make those decisions without me? Go ahead and see how it goes. Now, he's not mean like that.
No.
So as soon as I humble myself back and say, I'm sorry, Lord, he's like, okay, come on. Yeah. But those do still have consequences. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he's come on in. But there's still consequences. And that was one of the things that broke my heart. And I was like, I don't want to be disobedient again. I started to look at the guys that I was meeting. They ended up being great guys with wonderful careers, handsome. It wasn't right, but some of them kept calling. And I was like, I don't want to talk to them anymore. And I feel like I'm now being a burden to them. I'm now hurting them. I'm now part of the deal that now is going to count up against the woman they are meant for. Because I was hurtful. I rejected them. I ghosted them. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that's what happens when we're out of his will. Not only am I going to be like, this isn't right, but I hurt others in the process. And some of those things, while God is redeeming God, some of those things are consequences that need to play out. And that's just, it's sad. But like, that's an easy one. Right. Oh, a little bit of hurt. They'll be all right. Package it up. But some of our rebellion is a little more intense.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. So being in his will and trusting that when I go back into that new normal, he's with me. Yeah. I'm not alone in that new normal.
Yeah. And like you said, there's a confidence when you are in the Lord's will. Yeah. You know, I think I remember it so vividly. For me, there's this moment because it was one of the first times I felt I was being audacious with the Lord and holding him to his word. Oh. But I didn't feel like I was being disrespectful. I just felt like, this is what you called me to, you know. And so it was when I got to Guaymas, and I had to find my own place, and I didn't have a job yet. And I remember I just was like looking for work, and every place I went to wasn't like really that great. Salaries here are way lower than they are in the States, way lower. And so I remember starting to feel a little stressed. And I just remember I was praying to God and I said, Lord, there's nothing new for you. You knew everything that would happen. Everything that I'm going through right now, you knew it would happen. And yet you called me, not just out of the US, but here to Guaymas, because I could have stayed in Mexico City where there's many connections for me because my family is from there, still has connections there. But I knew the Lord was calling me to Guaymas. And yet some things didn't play out the way we thought they were going to play out. And so I remember saying, and it had to just be a boldness from the Holy Spirit that prompted me, because I feel like I normally wouldn't say that to the Lord. But I remember I just was like, God, you called me here, so you need to find a job for me. It was just like that. Like, I was like, you brought me here, so you need to provide for me. I said, I came here because I believed you called me, so then you need to provide. And I didn't feel like the Lord corrected me. I didn't feel like he was like, who do you think you are? He provided for me, and he opened up a place for me at my job. And I remember it wasn't like, oh, that worked. Like, it wasn't like that, but I was just like, wow, it's true though, Lord. You did call me and you will provide, and so it's something that has held me even in current times, when things happen, or, even when we were planning for the wedding and things were like having some chaos with providers. And so I was just like, Lord, like, we've been praying for this. We prayed about this hotel. We prayed about every aspect of it, should we get this provider? Should we do this? Because there's money going into it, and you don't always have all that money. You're just like, Lord, even with our honeymoon, I was just like, God, please don't let this be a scam. We have some money, but we don't have money like that. And the little bit we have, we're going to spend on this. And then to find out it's a scam, and trusting the Lord. It wasn't a scam. Everything, it was above. We had a great honeymoon, and we didn't even nobody got sick, and it was just great, but there's a confidence. Yeah. When the Lord has called you. So even when it doesn't feel normal, even when you're like, this is outside of what I'm accustomed to, there's a confidence, because God, you've called me to this. So I'm stepping into it. I'm trusting that this is where you said I need to be, but I need you to come through. And these things that I don't have any power over, you do, and you need to come through. Yeah. And he does.
Yeah, he does. And I think, like, when I think about that, it's not something that we should go in with like a cockiness, like, or like, when we truly, it requires humility, and it requires being obedient to that quiet, still voice that is hard to be obedient to sometimes. Right. But when we are obedient, we've put ourselves in a position that says, no, like, I did what you said. Now it's your turn to hold up. Yeah. And we also know, like, it's not like, oh, I'm out here living in these streets doing crazy things. No, God, show up. Because we act like that. Yeah. When we'd be like all up in kinds of sin and be like, Jesus, what are you doing? And Jesus is like, that's not what we agreed on. Like, that ain't me. That's all you. Yeah. But we put that on God. Like, people say, oh, look what Jesus did. I had a friend who used to say that. And I'm like, girl, you don't even go to church. You don't even know Jesus like that. Yeah. And you're putting it on him. That's all you. You created this. But in the same way, like, we give honor to him. We submit ourselves to him. When he says, quit that sugar, and he's gracious. So he's not requiring us to be perfect. Right. But he's inviting us into new levels. And then the little levels that he invites us into is he's saying, okay, we'll do this. Change this. Submit to me here. Yeah. It's not perfection. It's not being all like all holier than thou, in a sense. Right, you know what I mean? But it's saying, yes, Lord. With a little, he sees that. And then we kept confidence. And I think it was a similar thing for me. And I remember crying. So maybe 2 years ago when we got the office, not just the office that we got, but we moved across the hall to the bigger office. Yeah. When that office had cleared out, I was like, like, I want that office. We have this one little space, and that 3-room suite is what I wanted. And I remember, like, when no one was around, I put my hand on the door. And I said, God, I want this. I know we can afford it, but I want this. In Jesus' name, amen. And then I went back into my office because I didn't want anybody to see me. I was like embarrassing. I was like, not, but I was just like, ooh. A couple months later, we were in that office. Yeah, praise the Lord. And I didn't push my way into the office. Other people were saying, go, apply for it. tell them how much you can offer for it.
Mhm. I
Go.
remember that. Yeah.
And I put 2 different prices that were in our price range.
Which weren't.
We
I
weren't
remember I
really.
was like, no, say this. And you're like, I still give him the other one, Fred.
And they gave me back the lower one.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's only God's favor.
Amen. Yeah.
And so knowing that, I remember sitting back in there and just like, it was Jessica was with Until We Rise and hanging out with us at that time, and she was helping out. I don't think she was interning, but she was still serving with us. And we were sitting there in my office, like just worshiping God. And I looked at her, I was like, what the heck? How are we here?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember later that week just studying and like looking in the Word, and the Lord was taking me to John. Can't remember exactly which one, but he said, whatever you ask of me is yours. And I was like, well, I better be careful what I be asking for. Because if I put him to it, he's going to give it to me. And I know it's weird because it's not like, oh, I mean, I've asked for healing for my mom's neck. I've asked for people to be raised from the dead. I've asked for people to be healed. Like I've cried over these things. Like I've pleaded with the Lord.
Yeah.
And there's parts that I don't understand, but I think that the thing is to continue to submit before God.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And ask.
Yeah.
But there are other things that he says. Ask according to my will, and it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I ask because I want it, and it doesn't seem to be his plan. So it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Because like I'm like, but you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you do it for others. You can bring the healing. I've prayed over people, and they've had tumors tell me, oh, the tumor's gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know you can.
Mm-hmm.
Do it, Lord, and I'm just like, wow, God, like, as I think about it, like, it's a very, like, you can't put God in a box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't.
We can hold him to his word and promises, but we must stay submitted, and I think what I got from that season of not just like, oh, I figured it all out, but it was like, man, like, God loves me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I may not be able to put God in a box and manipulate him for every desire that I have.
Right.
But God loves me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which takes me to our last interview that we had.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, like my friend Akila.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known her since we were in college. And, I was just honored to be able to, experience, like, watching that video of her dad before he passed.
Yeah.
I was so moved by that. It was like an honor that she would share that with me. But yeah, like how the love of a father can change completely how you function completely.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I remember one of the things that I recall from her interview was how she talked about her dad telling her, you're the best and you don't even know it. And that was so impactful for me because, like you said, the love of a father is so important. And
we were talking about that today.
Right, we were. And so, I shared on the podcast in that interview, but even as we were talking earlier today, like I didn't have my biological father, but I had many father figures in my life and continue to have many father figures, including your father in my life.
My daddy.
Yes. But I have a heavenly father.
Yes.
And I think like a lot of my childhood and teenage years and even young adult age, the Lord used a lot of male figures in my life to show that love. But it was a few years back in Guaymas where I really realized that all of that was really a reflection of the love that he had for me. And that, I think, is what impacted me so much, to know there have been, would say my dad, like he allowed things to get in the way of being there for me and loving me. And yet God was like, I don't let anything get in the way. And it reminded me of the Reckless Love song, where it's like, I'll climb up any mountain.
Do you want me to sing it for you?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
No mountain won't climb up. Shadow won't light up. I'm really bad
at least
with
know the lyrics.
I know the song. I just forget the lyrics.
Right, but he's like, there's nothing that's gonna hold me back. And I remember there's another song, Pieces, by Stephanie Gretzinger. Don't sing it. But she talks about She talks about
I got you, boo. I got you. Pieces.
That's get out. But she talks about how God doesn't give his love in pieces, you
Yeah.
know, and how he's not ashamed to be with us. And I remember for me, it was just, God, as much as I longed and even have a desire, my dad is open, you know, to have a relationship with him. But no matter what, there's no human, not even my spouse, not even you, not even my mom, that can love me the way God loves me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, your love for me is so great.
Yeah.
And I thought of, there's a verse, I don't know where it's at, but it says, fear not, little flock.
Yeah.
Whereas the Father's
Come on, little flock.
little flock, remember. But it's like, it's the Father's desire to give you the kingdom, I think is what it says. And I think one of the reasons I love that passage so much is the tenderness that you can hear in it, right? Like, fear not, little flock. You know, and I just feel like that's who God is with me. Like, he just loves me and he just takes me.
Do not fear, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. His good pleasure.
Yeah. And I like all the like the wording with that is just like the love that is there. And for me it's kind of like her dad told her, like, you're the best and you don't even know it. You know, and I feel like that's what God is constantly trying to remind me. You know, like, Vero, you're the best. Not that I'm the best at everything. I'm not the best at everything. Like, there's things I'm not good at. Don't ask me to do certain things. But in his eyes, he's like, you're the best.
Yeah.
You know, the word says, like, in the how he created all these things in the beginning, he's like, and it was good. And that's how he sees each and every one of us. It's not just me, you know. It's not just, Vero, you're the best, and everyone's kind of okay. Like, and I know I joke sometimes with Bao. I'm like, I'm his favorite. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I don't know about you, but
I'm his favorite. Have you seen what he's done for me, though?
Have you seen what he's done for me? No, but
wait, hold up. You said it like, no, he's done great things for me. You're gonna be jealous. You're gonna be so jealous when you see the good things he continues to do for me.
But that's like the beauty of him, right? Like,
right, and it changes how you function.
Yeah, because you're
like,
just like,
when you know you're that loved, you move differently,
and that's what
you love
back
about. Differently too.
Yeah. And that's what I was when
that's what Akila talked about.
Yeah, I was like, how did that impact you? Because I know it changes when you know you're loved. It's like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
None of this matters because I know. Like she said, you know, she's like, I don't care. I already told I was the best.
Yeah.
And that's like, it just changes the attitude that you come from. And we talked about that, right?
Yeah,
like not coming from brokenness or trying to prove people, but you just, you know, you're already approved. So everything else above that is sprinkles.
Yeah.
Which I loved because, you know.
Sprinkles. She has issues sometimes.
I haven't had in a long time.
I'll give you some sugar-free sprinkles, friend.
But yeah, and so
no, that's good, and I love how you said that too because it makes you function differently, and I love how you also said, like, even though your father allowed a separation, like God doesn't, and like even where our love, like our parents' love, has limits, you know, like I think about. Like God's doesn't. Sorry, incomplete thoughts. I get excited. But I remember, reminds me of like time I went for a motorcycle ride with my dad. I think I might have mentioned even on the blog or the podcast. But I was like, my dad would die before he let anything happen to me. But if we got slammed by a car on this motorcycle, he has limits. But God doesn't.
Right.
Like he doesn't have limits. And the more that we accept God's love, I think one of our conversations said it can't. Oh, I think it was with Keela. It can't help to spill over, like because love produces more love, unlike hate. Like it does. You can't. It's really hard to come like to a loving place from a hateful place. But when you have love, it spills out of you, and it ends up impacting all the other things. And I love it because it's so funny. My grandma, like I saw. I have it for the whole year. I hadn't been drinking coffee. I would go to my grandma's house and she's like, ¿Quieres café? Do you want coffee? And I'm like, no, estoy bien, gracias. And she's like, ¿Por qué no? And I was like, I'm fasting. I'm not eating and drinking coffee. Okay. A little sadness inside of her. She's Puerto Rican.
Like against her nature, she doesn't get it. What the heck?
And then like because my fast ended on Tuesday and I went to her house and she made like my little surullos and like the huevo and like the cheese. And she was like, ¿Quieres café? And I said, Sí, por favor. Her eyes lit up like with such joy
Yeah.
to be able to serve me coffee. And I was like she's way too, oh, see? And then she like happily steams the milk and does the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my God, this has to be the best cup of coffee that I'm gonna have. And it just meant so much to her. It was like, it was her good pleasure to give it.
To give you the kingdom of coffee.
The kingdom of coffee. But like I looked at her eyes, it does moonlight though, because like when we are able to model that kind of love for others, to take pleasure in blessing others and loving on others and being kind to others and say, this pours out of me and I can't help. I'm not going to be shy.
Yeah.
I'm going to pour it on you. I'm going to love you, even if you're like, And I'm like, oh, but I love you anyway. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can't help but multiply. I know, right? I feel you. We got guest puppies here.
Dog sitting, sorry, y'all.
But yeah, like I feel like and I mean, this is not even to mention, we started off with Ronnie as our guest. You know, he just talked this. We didn't go on YouTube, but if you go back to our podcast on audio on Spotify and Apple, you can hear it. Like he talked about like his journey with loving, and we're going to probably have him back on. Yeah. Because he is pretty awesome. We'll have him back on our YouTube, as well as Allie. She's going live on A New Thing Live. On Monday. And so I'll be joining her on that show. Awesome. So if you don't follow A New Thing Live on YouTube, go ahead and check it out, because we're going to be there live next month or this Monday. But with those two conversations, they were so powerful. And I reflect back on like what God has been teaching me. I didn't realize this was going to happen, but just even this weekend, I attended a wedding and I was at this fashion week, and I like it was a fashion week. It was a lot, yeah. But I remember entering these rooms with confidence, like I'm me. Oh my gosh, you got millions of dollars and I'm on food stamps, but I'm blessed. Y'all lucky to have me here. Like, oh, I'm not getting married and I don't even like how I look that much, but I am here. Like the confidence and the joy that I just felt, and I was like, where did this come from? And I think that there was this journey through all the things that I've been learning, that like God's love has been locked into me. Like I thought that the adventure in when God was showing me his love, like I already have it, let me share it with others. But I'll say for the past 6 months or whatever, since we've been doing this, like an awareness of God's, and I'm like, oh, and it changes how I move. And like I have the audacity to love people differently and to move differently, no matter what insecurity I carry. I have to love because I'm so loved. Yeah. And when it hurts, I'm still gonna love. Yeah. Because I'm already loved. And I don't know. It's just been really changing me. I didn't anticipate that. And I don't think I fully reflected on it until we started talking today. Yeah. Like I'm different because I started to do this Love Is series. I'm different. I'm more loved and I'm more confident than I've ever been because I know I'm loved. Yeah. It's just, if you guys like it, it's just a sprinkle on the cake. If you love me back, that's great. But I'm already loved. Yeah. Like it's like Aquila's, you know. Yeah. Or even what's the one that we did? Love is my identity. Yes. That was just our conversation, but I feel like it's becoming me, and I'm still working on it, but I'm not just Rachel. I'm loved by God. I'm loved by Jesus. Yeah. I'm loved. And that changes how I function. I don't know. Any closing thoughts for you? Yeah.
No, I think even... Doggies get crazy. Want to share
Pee-wee,
what's love.
Pee-wee has some thoughts.
Pee-wee. Come on, buddy. It's okay, you're left. You don't need a bark. Moments. But I think for me, it was what God has been showing me is that I'm already approved, right? Like part of that is like he loves me because he approves me already. I'm not trying to prove anything. I don't have to prove that I am worthy of being loved. You know, that I don't have to prove of like, God, I'm good enough, right? That he's already approved me and said, I'm worthy of that love,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think, like you said, it does.
You don't have to earn it.
Yeah. And so it's made me more solid on who I am in him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's made me, like, know where I can run to.
Yeah.
Even when things don't look that great, or even when things are, you know, hitting rough patches, like, it allows me to say, God, I know you love me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you're going to get me through anything.
Yeah.
And it helps me stand more confidently and more firmly in who I know that I am, who I know that he is, and like what he has spoken to
That's
me.
so good.
Yeah.
I think it impacts our relationships too, right?
Yeah.
How you love your husband,
Mm-hmm.
how you love me as a friend,
Yes.
how you love your mom, how you love your
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, loving them for who they are, because that's how he loved us, and
Mm-hmm.
it's how I'm loving differently as well
Yeah.
too. So I feel you. It's
Yeah.
like when you already know you're approved, you don't have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is really good. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's been a good season so far.
So if you haven't caught up on all the ones we've been doing, please go back and watch them. Also, there was a couple that I did, so we're going to share those next week, and reposting some of them and going live, because we're going to just kind of revisit some old ones. I think a couple of the studies that I kind of just shared, it's just me. It's before Veto came onto the thing, but you don't want to miss it. They are good. And so you can go ahead and check that out. We'll be going live with those 2 episodes next week and the following week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to have some new guests. We have some amazing guests that have great stories that you don't want to miss. People who have overcome ridiculous circumstances and who are ready to talk about what love is and how that has changed them. So stay tuned with us, stay connected, share this with somebody. You just don't know. I had no clue like how much this was going to change me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised by it, honestly, because I just was trying to be obedient, thinking I'm doing something for someone else, for the ministry.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that part of the change that I'm having is because I said yes, and now I'm experiencing that victory,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
that healing.
Yeah.
So you don't know how. Go back, re-listen to them, let it sink in. Even the interviews, like, let them see what they'll be for you. And you don't know how it'll help somebody else
Mm-hmm.
going through a struggle, because some of these stories are really hard.
Yeah.
They're not easy conversations. Like,
no, not at all.
almost all of them involve near death or death experiences, you know?
Right.
And so I know that's hard, but what God has shown me in our ministry is to practice leaning into hard things, because when we're afraid and stuff, when we're not sure of our love and all that, it's hard to lean in and be there for others. And speaking of that, part of our ministry, we've had some great news. We've been this is our Love Is series, and we have all of our online content. We have a new episode every Tuesday. We were a little late today, but every Tuesday at 5 p.m. we go live. We also have it on podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify and other places where you can find your podcast. Just search Until We Arise. We also have Elia's Gift that's going out, and we just got notification that one of the girls, actually, we've done our support group, right? So we're closing out. We have one more session this Thursday, and then we have our live paint night. So all the girls are coming to the office. We're gonna have a paint night and just really come together and process through the closing of this session. And then we'll start again in a couple of weeks, but we're going to take a few weeks off to reevaluate and to kind of see. But it's been such a successful support group. The girls have been talking about how much it's been helping them in their healing journey, even though they're all in different places and their losses have happened at different times.
Yeah.
And so we've been partnered with Huntington Memorial, or not partnered, but like committed agreements with Huntington Memorial and USC Arcadia. And both of those hospitals have received Elia's Gift. And so we just got a message yesterday that a couple of women have used their coupons or their gift cards, a gift card for bracelet.
Okay.
I didn't tell you this, huh?
No.
That's what I meant to tell you.
Okay.
Allie, she let me know that the girl who donated the bracelets to Elia's Gift got feedback from people who have received the box, and they wanted to use their gift card to buy more bracelets, and say that they've been wearing their bracelet like every day.
Praise the Lord.
And so not only are they getting it, but they're receiving it and it's helping in their healing journey.
That's
They
awesome.
they commented with her about how powerful the bracelets were for them and the bears especially. And so knowing how beautiful that is, it means something, and we're actually getting feedback, you know.
Yeah,
And it's
so
great because they
awesome.
haven't so joined the support group,
Yeah.
but we're hearing from them. So I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was going to come through the bracelet donation that they would respond. So that's
so
a
awesome.
blessing, and it's showing fruit, and that it's not in vain. So I'm really honored to be a part of that. And then we See You Kitchen. Mom, do you want to tell us how it's been going?
We See You Kitchen has been going great.
Let's scoot. Let's say hi to Mom.
Hi. I'm sneaking in here. We See You Kitchen's been going great. It's been amazing. God is doing a great work and just reaching the lost, and not only the lost, but the people who desire prayer. And it's been, God has provided financially, and the laborers are coming so willing with so much willingness to give and to serve with their heart. And the Lord is just opening doors for more and more people to desire to serve. And so I'm super grateful for being called to the ministry, and also being able to partner with other people to help them meet what God has called them to do.
Yeah, it's like beautiful. I love your heart, because my mom is stay here for just a second. Oh, okay. Well, okay, go ahead and go, so you don't have to feel like you're leaning in. And like, my mom is not about just serving the others, but even serving every person who comes to serve.
Yeah.
And there's power in what we do with Until We Rise. It's not just about feeding those who are lost and who are hungry. It's not even just feeding the homeless. It's feeding anybody we encounter to say, we see you and you matter. Yeah. And even when you come serve with us, we see you and you matter.
Yeah.
God sees you. And I think that's what I love about my mom's heart, to do that for everyone and to be obedient in that. And so we are taking 2 weeks off from that, but I think we're resuming on the 15th or so.
So we're taking 2 weeks off starting this week?
Yeah, this weekend and the following weekend we'll not have We See You Kitchen, but the third week in April, I guess.
Okay.
Because anyway, we're taking 2 weeks off. Yeah. So we'll be coming back, and we're looking for volunteers. And so if you're interested in partnering with that, you can, or you can donate to either Elia's Gift or We See You Kitchen, or generally to Until We Rise through our website, untilwearise.org. You can find that on our Instagram, and it's also linked in our bio here on YouTube, and on our YouTube channel. So, I mean, that's all. And I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today. It's so awesome. Live from TJ with my friend. I love you. So, friend, like, I want to bring We See You Kitchen here. So we're going to figure that out too.
Yes.
So prepare yourself. If you think maybe you want to come help us serve food here in TJ, let us know. We're in the process.
Message us, and we can definitely set something up, because there's definitely a need.
Yeah.
And it's I'm glad to be able to do little things here and there here, but yeah, it'd be awesome to do something as an organization here and bring the whole team and all of you guys who are willing to partner with us here. God has a heart for Tijuana. God has a heart for Mexico. He is moving. And it's a privilege to be able to be a part of it here, to see what God is doing. So for sure.
It's not easy.
And
so I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Until we arise, what
won't change in our lives, in our families, in our communities, and in our world. Until we arise.
Until we arise. Marilyn said thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Marilyn. Thank you, everybody who's here.
Yes.
We will have more times where we're here together.
For sure.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
You can end it.
Bye.